Mandinibulise kwakhona igama lam ndingisive bahle. Namhlanje sinendwendwe endi-admire kakhulu, Aobakwe Mosime. Today we're going to talk about discipline and talk about locus of control. Of course, these are sensitive subjects that we don't usually communicate about in our society in different spaces because we feel intimidated. Discipline is one thing that is not applicable generally. So today we actually realized a need for us to have our guest, who's a writer, a relevant writer, and a leader, talent coach. You, like I've mentioned in previous interviews, that we try by all means to bring sophisticated people to discuss these relevant subjects with us. Aubukwe, my sister, let me welcome you on Asvaye Explorer. Such a
Thank
privilege and
you.
honor to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me. It's such an honor as well to be invited and to be interviewed by you. I mean, you yourself are a dynamite. You are like a treasure to this generation. So to be part of this, I'm really thankful.
Yes, yes. I've been looking forward to have this interview, and I was like, "Yo, Izanine."
Yo, for
So
some time, even. Yo, like, yeah, no. But we're here now, and I'm so grateful that it finally is happening.
And one of the things that I got to realize was you are such a busy person. How do you manage? Let us start right there. How do you manage? It's not easy to get you. It's not easy to get you. I don't know
Oh,
how
but
many how many days it took, but yay, it's not really easy.
I guess you have to do what you have to do. There's really no set method that I do. It's just about knowing what you want and going for it and just prioritizing all of that. But also making sure that whenever platforms like this invite me to come, like definitely I know that my voice will make a difference. So I'm really grateful to be here.
Thank you so much, and thank you so much for even the respect that you really dedicate to us. And
Mm,
when last time I had an interview, I was like, there is something that I miss along like the interviews that I usually have, to forget to
mm.
tell people that what these guests do. So I therefore decided to update my way of having this interview. Could you please tell people what do you do?
I am a writer, a speaker, and I'm also a talent coach, entrepreneur. So I work with young people, particularly to journey with them to help them discover what their purpose is, what they're gifted in, but most importantly, to tap into that space of whatever that God has put on them, inside of them, to just grow up to be everything that God has called them to be purpose wise. So it's about discovering your talents, it's about discovering your gifts, and walking in all of them. So in a nutshell, that's the three basic things that I do: writing, speaking, and coaching. But also, because I'm a creative type of person, there's also other things that I do on the side, and I like always having them just as surprises. One of them being a hand model. So yeah, there's also other things, but like I said, I love surprises. So sometimes I'm just like, you'll see when I'm done with whatever that I'm busy with, and you'll just be surprised. Oh, you can do that as well. You can do that as well. So
Yeah,
yeah, so
yeah.
in a nutshell,
And I was looking at your bio. I was looking at your bio and I was
mm,
like, you've done so many things right at a young age. Let's start right there
yeah.
before we go anywhere else. How much is important to start things at a very young age?
It is so important. I mean, sometimes we don't get maybe the support, or we don't have the knowledge to be able to start things from a very young age, or sometimes the exposure, you don't have enough exposure. But it's so important. For me, I believe that once you start, the earlier you start anything that you feel that you're gifted and you're talented in, the more time it gives you to practice it and to be excellent at it and become really great. So it's really important, I feel, that people start from a very young age. And yeah, even if you don't have the resources or whatever, as long as you become very intentional yourself to discover what you got, what God has blessed you with, those talents and those gifts, the more that you'll be able to practice them and enjoy them, but also use them for the purpose that God has given them to you for.
Mm, mm, mm.
Yeah.
And you've had different interviews from different
Mhm.
platforms. What
Yeah.
was what was the interest of these platforms on you? What attracted them? What exactly attracted them for you to be on their platform and to share the story?
Like
If
you
it
said
was a story.
from the previous question, they just was very surprised that you're still so young. How did you achieve this? How did you do that? And
Yeah.
just that thing of how did you do that? How did you get to a place where you said, I want to write a book, I want to climb Mount Kilimanjaro, I want to be part of Miss Commonwealth, I want to do talent coaching. All of these things I've discovered them very early, while for many people they only start discovering it at a very later, older stage. Most of the time it always starts at you are very young to be doing the things
Mm,
that you do. But sometimes it's also about a specific topic, maybe that they have in mind for the show or for the interview. Then that I do is aligned to that topic that they have, and they would invite me to the show.
mm, mm.
Yeah.
I read this book. So this is a book, guys. You can, how much is it, Kaneni? 250, was it? How
No,
much?
that one is 200. That one is 200.
200, this one. And as I was reading this book, and even from the very first day, because I was fortunate enough to buy this book straight from you, like directly from you. I these are some of the things that I really think like I have to celebrate. So when
Mm.
I was reading this book, I was like, so much knowledge, so much sense of wealth, like essence of living at a very young age. And this is your
Mm.
second book. And I was
Yeah,
wondering what then was in your first book? Because with this one, it's more about your varsity days. Tell
yeah.
me about your first book, Under the Blazer. Why you decided to write that one? And I want to
Under
buy that
the
one for my sister.
Oh my gosh. And you paid, hey? So I'm waiting for you.
Yeah,
So Under
yeah,
the Blazer is where everything started, honestly, because I was one of those teenagers who were loners, you could say. I didn't have
yeah.
friends at school. I would chill alone at break and all of that. And also I had struggles, just like any other teenager, struggles of, self-esteem, struggles of just trying to find yourself as a teenager in that very critical stage. So, because of that, one of the things that I wanted to do basically with Under the Blazer was that I found that our parents during that time, they found it so hard to talk to us about issues that we faced during that time. Usually they would just tell us, do this and don't do that. And for me, I was very agitated by that. I wanted to know, when you say do this, don't do that, I wanted to know the why. And even the books that were already on the market, they were not sharing the whole story. They would just probably tell you 10 steps of building your self esteem, but they don't give you the story. And for me, I was hungry to hear somebody tell me their honest, raw story of how they managed to grow up in that very critical stage of teenagehood. So for me as well, because at church they had already had seminars for girls and all of that, it made it so much easier for me as a teenage girl to go to these seminars at church, and they would teach us some of these things that were so difficult for our parents, or even some of the books that were on the market to do. So I remember someone telling me that don't underestimate what you know and think that everybody else knows it. There's so many people out there who actually don't know what you know. So how about you sharing it in a book or in however way that you can, so that you can help another a teenager just like you. And that's how really Under the Blazer was birthed. It was birthed from a place of wanting to know, but also wanting to share, and also just seeing the books that are on the market that they were not giving us that real story, the real deal. And I
Mm,
thought I decided to be that solution in terms of writing Under the Glazer.
and
Yeah.
this is this is this is shocking. It's a surprise to me when you say growing up, like you get to a point whereby your self esteem, or maybe you are challenged like other children. Like
Yeah.
I'm one of those children that were challenged when it comes to self esteem
Mm.
aspect. But with you, when I read this book, it didn't cross my mind. Like she probably lacked confidence, or maybe she probably had low self esteem. It didn't really cross
Yeah.
my mind. How did you get yourself into that situation, or what made you to have self esteem challenges?
Growing up, man, you know that as kids, as especially in growing up, let's say in primary school, crèche, there's always that
Yeah.
one thing that people realize or notice about you that's different. So for me, one of those things, I also had one of those things which are quite different, which was my forehead. And a lot
Yeah.
of people
Yeah.
would make a whole lot of jokes about it. And even in the first book, if you had already read it, you would have read that part where I talk about this part of the self-esteem issues that, they would call you all sorts of names, from a love brown to a track to a lot of things, to a lot of
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
So at home, really, I didn't have an issue. Honestly, my parents have always been very loving, and they really have always encouraged me that you are fearfully and wonderfully made in the image of God. But obviously, when you get outside of their comfort, outside of their protection, the world can be very vicious. So that's really what happened, that I allowed what the outside world said to me get into me. And I feel like that's how my self-esteem was influenced to a point where it really was really, really low. That I didn't believe, or I didn't think that I was beautiful. I didn't think that I met the standard of the world, or the standard of beauty, those type of things. So it really messed me up when I was a teenager. But thank God that the journey of growth and just self actualization, and the people around you that turn into the right people who also get to tell you the truth instead of what everybody thinks, or what it how do I put it? How everybody thinks everybody should be, or should look like. So once I got to the truth, that's when I started picking up quite a lot when it comes to my self esteem, but also in a whole lot of things that I did. Because most people actually that went to the same high school with me, they really are shocked that, is it you? Like, all the things that you're doing, is it the same person? Like, because you were the
Yeah.
shy person,
Yeah.
didn't want to speak to anyone, like you were always in your own little corner, and we just always found you to be very weird. So for you to have blossomed the way you have, sure, like it's such a beauty to see you just get out of your own shell and be that all you were destined to be. So yeah, so really that's how my journey has been with that part of my self-esteem, and how I am continuing to journey on that, because I feel that you would never, uh how do I put it? You'll never get to 100%, but at the same time, you can get as close as you can to that 100% of really having great self-esteem. So yeah, I'm still on that journey.
And you mentioned viciousness of
Yeah,
like of our environment, especially when
yeah,
you don't realize yourself, because some of the things
mhm,
I think I can agree with you, or you can agree with me. Some of the
yeah,
things we don't know them until people pick them up, or they
yeah,
pinpoint them.
yeah,
Like,
yeah, yes,
so I feel like let me say this. When we were making this platform, this channel, I was in a meeting with the team, and I in my justification of this of the existence of this channel, I was like to them, I wouldn't be sitting in this meeting if it was not someone's story that changed my
Mm,
life. And like someone who's curious, who want to know who probably changed your life. Their mind become wild. Okay, it might be Steve Jobs. Probably it is Les Brown. You know, someone prominent already, and only to
mm,
find out is the person that was living in the street, living with me, until I had a conversation with that particular person. And to me, I was like, yo, it means if I realized that such people exist in our community, I could have changed like long time ago. And that thing of listening to the story of that person that changed my life, it happened after a long time, after I've wasted so many years, failed at school,
mm,
labeled myself. So I said to them,
mm,
I think bringing this channel is the best thing that we can do to our community, because the people
mm,
that we bring, which is something that I'm still gonna question you, the people that we bring are people that know like how much it takes to sweat in the township, how
mm,
much hopelessness do you get to have in a township. So
mm,
when you say that, some of the things that you are mentioning, we are
mm,
familiar with, I am familiar with. So here's the question now.
mm.
When you haven't gone that path of self actualization,
Yeah.
when you get now when you get to a point where you must actualize yourself, or you must look yourself and see yourself as you want to see yourself, not as other people see you. It's not an easy process for everyone. Like, it's people get that wrong. If they say now your brown loaf or something, like, some people see that in different way. Someone could have
Yeah.
taken the things that they said to you differently, to get it,
Mm,
and
yeah.
differently, and to such an extent that it harmed them, it actually damaged or tainted their future. So
Oh.
I want to ask, with the whole explanation, I want to ask, what's the right
Mm,
way to assimilate, to actually do this thing that we say is self actualization? What's the right way to actually realize yourself? This is who I am.
mm,
To get my question?
mm.
Mm,
Yeah, I do. I do. I think it's different for different people because you start asking the question about who are you, what are you about at very different stages in your life, for different people. So for me, it was that question of who am I, and why am I here on earth? uh, what exactly, why did God create me, and why did he create me this way? I think that was also the biggest question, to say, why did you make me so different physically, that I'm sure there are also other differences that you have made in me internally, which I can find and which I can capitalize on. So asking that question of why am I different, at that time though, I didn't see it that way, of the differences and capitalizing on it in however way that you can, monetary wise or otherwise. It was just a matter of wanting to find out, is being different a good thing? Is being different such a bad thing that you get just for, you get teased about, that you get home and you just want to cry, or you just don't want to be around people because you know how um they can get when it comes to whatever thing that you're struggling with. So it was me just asking those questions, and now starting to ask them to people who I felt very safe around. That's also another thing, because if you go to the very same people who are saying those very bad things about you or whatever, it you're most probably gonna get the very same replies, or something along those lines, which is negative and which will never build you at all. So I needed to find people who I felt very safe around, and to share as well how I'm feeling about the situation, in terms of I don't know who I am. I want to know who I am. I want to know why I'm so different. And I want to know how I can use this difference to make a difference. So finding these safe people have helped me a lot in terms of, let's say, church leaders, mentors, older sisters, because I've really been a big advocate for that, for having older sisters who I look up to. And in the community, I don't necessarily need to just see you on TV or whatever. I believe that I need to be able to touch you, feel you, because there's something about that. There's something about knowing that whoever that you're looking up to, this person is a real person. As much as TV people, they're real, but once you can touch and sit down with another person and they give you their time and their ear to listen to whatever that you're struggling with, it makes such a difference. So those older sisters, they've helped me a lot, because I've had to tell them my story, be honest that this is where I am, this is how I feel about self-esteem, about myself physically, about internally. I don't know who I am. Where do we
Mm.
start? So those are the conversations that it started though from honesty. It started from being honest with yourself, because a lot of us don't, as young people, we are okay with the lies that we feed ourselves. But the minute we start being very honest with ourselves first, then we'll be able to go out there and seek the help that we need in terms of self-actualization, in terms of finding ourselves and really getting the answers that we need to our burning questions. So yeah, so that's really where it started, the asking the questions, but also finding people who are connected, who I feel that they might be able to help me navigate this journey of finding myself and being aware of who I am and what I'm capable of, and what does also this physical in the world that
Mm.
we live. Yeah,
Mm.
I hope
And
I've
I
answered your
have,
question. Mm,
yes. It's in a broader, it's in a broader context. And I want to
yeah,
question again in the same, in like on your answers,
yeah,
is how you look now, how you look things now, because I think this thing of uniqueness, it follows you. It follows
yeah,
you as I listen to things. It follows you, and
yeah.
I know writers, I know authors. I've heard about authors, writers who have manuscript and stuff like that, but I've never came across an author that labeled herself or herself or himself or herself as a relevant writer, relevant
Okay.
author. What
Mm,
how did you get to a point whereby you say now there are authors,
mm,
there are
yeah.
authors, and I think amongst authors that are available in the world, I'm the
Mm.
relevant author. What makes you relevant?
Because of the issues that I touch on in both my books, but also in general, the topics that I'm interested in. They're really burning issues that many people, everybody has something to say, but not everybody has the courage to say it. So for me, I've always had the courage to write about it, whether it's however sensitive it is. So going to those sensitive areas, going to those very deep and sometimes secretive areas that a lot of people don't know about us, I feel that a lot of people, I found that in both my books, when people have read both my books, they'd be like, sure, like you got the courage to speak about this. And I respect you more for that, because you are not ashamed of your story. You're not ashamed about what many people are struggling with, but they don't, they don't have the courage to say it. So for me, I feel like I'm a relevant writer because of the courage I have to write about the things that I'm struggling with, but also how I am navigating my way through that. And also just because of the topics that I speak about, a lot of people are also struggling with. So a lot of the times
True.
when we struggle with some things, we are all looking for answers. So in the struggle, for me, I find that when we speak more about the struggle, but also speak more about the solutions, you become relevant. Once you just speak about the problem, you're not taking us forward. Yes, you're making us aware of the problem, but what can we do after that? So for me, it's one of those things that it's about the struggles, but also offering how I've done it. And yeah, hopefully they can find one or two things in the process of reading the books or reading whatever part of the book that they get to read, that they are touched, man. They are touched. They look at their own lives and say, hey, man, I've gone through this, or I'm going through that. So it's about, yeah, me sharing my story, but also you being able to reflect back on yourself. Because for me, when I write, I don't just write for myself. I write so that you see yourself in my story, or you recognize where you are personally in your story, and you're able to move forward from that. So it's about really just recognizing yourself. For me, I feel that it's about always recognizing yourself in all the things that you write about, but also allowing other people that permission to recognize themselves and be okay with it. Because sometimes when we read about certain things, we feel like we're the only people that are going through that, and it feels like all these things are they're so big to handle, or I will not be able to navigate myself from this. So once you are able to read somebody else's story, you are able to say, oh man, like this thing is possible, like it's not as bad, and it will become better. It will become better, and I'll be able to move to a place where I want to be. So being a relevant writer for me is about offering those honest conversations about the things that we struggle with, but then being able to get solutions and find practical, real solutions. Don't just give us the fluffy stuff. Give us how you did it for real, real.
Mm, I get it, and I can actually testify to that.
Mm,
Here's the thing.
mm,
One, you from what I hear from
mm,
you, church is one of the factors that helped on like structuring you, developing, shaping you.
yeah.
Because you speak about church leaders, you speak about sisters that are available. Uh,
Mm.
so, do you still view the church the same way, or maybe the picture of a church is now becoming different from the one that once accommodated you? Is church
Mm.
still the same, or is becoming modernized too? How do you view church now? Is it
Sure.
where you can run to?
I believe it still is, but at the same time it's a place for me. Well, I feel like as I grow, also my level of understanding of church, it also had to grow with me. And so I do feel that church is still a place that I can run to, but it's a bit different in a sense that you start to also understand spirituality, and you're now able to start differentiating things for yourself, and being able to see the difference, of, okay, when I was younger, I just went to church because I felt guilty, or that I didn't pray, or that I skipped, reading the Bible on a certain day or whatever. But now it's not about that. It's about, I need the Lord. I need to be in the presence of other people who are who worship the same God, and who are struggling just like I'm struggling. But we all find solace in going to church, and trusting that even in the presence of the Lord, He's able to answer us, or He's able to give us whatever that we need. He's able to be whatever that we need Him to be at that place. But we are also able to find ourselves in His presence. Although the presence of the Lord is not just the four walls of the church, that's also something that I've grown up to understand. It's about what you make of it also on your own. When you are in your room, uh, how do you communicate with the Lord? How do you build your relationship with the Lord? How do you also represent Him when you are in the outside community, outside in the world, in what you do, in how you speak, in how you conduct yourself. So it's the understanding of it is becoming better and much more refined, and also the reasons behind why I would want to go to church are definitely much more solid, are much more from a very deep and internal place, as compared to when you were younger. It was just maybe about, okay, my parents are going to church, so let's how do I put it, let's respect them, let's do it to impress them, but now it's about, no, how am I where am I really with God, and
Yeah.
why
Yeah.
am I going to church, and what am I looking for when I'm at church, and am I going to find it there, or can I also find it, in my own secret place when I'm at home? So it's things like those little things that you start to discover about the presence of the Lord, about church, about the impressions that, or the images that we've had growing up, that you need to start redefining for ourselves. Because some of the things we just picked up and we just accepted as the truth. And now you need to start redefining your own truth of what is spirituality, who is God, uh, what do you make of this relationship that you say you have with God, and how do you represent Him? How do you take Him with in every sphere of your life? So yeah, it's the that has been redefined with the process of my growing, and I'm still growing in that. I don't know everything. I'm not perfect, but one thing that I know is that I'm much more. Uh, I can stand on my own 2 feet. I don't know how to put it. I don't know how to actually explain it more. I can stand on my own 2 feet when it comes to my relationship with the Lord. Obviously, with the structure around you, but you know that there are certain things that you can do that you maybe depended on for so long, but maybe you depended on the pastor, or you depended on uh, whoever, your mentor, or the prayer group. Some of these things you now know that you actually have the power to do them yourself, to pray yourself, to intercede yourself, to read the word yourself, to get understanding yourself, because that direct access has always been there. Sometimes I feel that we thought that we didn't have direct access. We thought that somebody else is more special to have that access to the Lord. But as I'm saying, as you grow, you start realizing that, hey man, I have a special position and a place in God's heart, just like everyone else. And if I can stand in it, I'll be able to discover myself in its fullest. But I need to discover, first of all, where that place is, and start redefining, letting go of certain things that I thought were the truth, and start defining it for myself. That this is my truth. This is what I believe. This is what I've experienced personally with the Lord. And this is my conviction because of it. Because a lot of the times as well, the other thing is that we take other people's experiences, spiritual experiences, and we make them our own, or we make them the gospel. So sometimes it's also beautiful to go through it yourself, and
Mm.
be able to get your own conviction, your own revelation, and your own definitions in the midst of that. Because yeah, I feel like nobody else can do your relationship with God the way that you can. And there's so much beauty in just that personal relationship with the Lord, more than just depending on other people. So yeah, I can talk a lot. Honestly, I can touch on a couple of other things, but it really has played a role. But like I said, the meaning that I'm attaching now towards it is growing, but it also is becoming redefined, and I'm really getting the truth. Because for me, I'm about, okay, what is the truth? According to me, according to what I've experienced, according to what I've learned, and so that I might be able to walk in it. I can't always be walking in other people's truths, because it's not authentic. At some point, it will catch up with me. So yeah, it's really about just finding the truth and the truth for yourself.
And I, right now in our living years, we we have access to information, and we and to a lot of information, and we
Mm,
have, I mean, we are exposed to a lot of things, and
yeah,
we read and we take, we understand, and some of the things, they don't work in our favor. I'll say this. The other time I was asking the other lady,
mm,
Uguti, why are you not going to church? Just make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. Are you here now?
yes,
So happens all the time. That's why I'm not shocked. Yeah,
yeah,
like different places. We from different places. You know,
yeah,
we are situated in the Free State, but we don't get many people from Free State. We get them, like we get many of them outside the Free State. More like
sure.
many of guests come from outside the Free State. So I remember the other time I had a guest from Ghana.
Mm,
With that interview, it was so much horrible. We couldn't even finish up because of the network issues. So we had a problem with that.
okay,
So you still watching us, Vegas Explorer. If you guys have question for our, you can drop your question on the comment on the comment box, so we can take your question right there. So I was talking to this lady, asking her why she's not going to church, and she's a very young lady. She said because of what church has become. Church
sure.
is now like something like a fashion show, or something that, like, if you don't have clothes, you cannot really feel comfortable, you know.
Please. Mm,
If you don't have high definition makeup, you're not really accommodated. The love is actually
mm,
categorized. We love you because you wear high heels like us. We understand you because you play drums for the best singer. There are so many categories now. But that's why I was asking the question, Nori. Do you still view the church like you viewed
mm,
the church before? Like you viewed the church before? But I got your answer.
okay.
I got your answer. And I understood from your points that it doesn't happen to all churches, because other churches have uniform. For those church with uniforms, I don't believe like they face something things like that. Let's
Mm.
come now to you growing
But
up
they
in the
still
streets of South
have
Africa.
though. They still have issues though, even though it might
Is
not
it?
be uniform. Something else. Yeah, yeah. I feel like there's yeah. Actually, I feel like there's chatter everywhere. It's just that now in the church, it has been uh, we have zoomed in more into the church, and we hear more of these things that are happening. But I feel like before it was just hush 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 hush, like, so there's always issues everywhere and anywhere, I feel. And it's just that now we are getting exposed to it more and more, and people are talking about it, and people also want to do some things differently about how church has been done, and they're questioning, and they're also looking for answers. So that's also something that I'm saying that for me as well, I'm starting to redefine certain things about church and what it means, and why I'm there. So yeah, so but I feel like there's issues everywhere, but the church, because we are in the church, yeah, we are now affected by them. So yeah, sorry for
Yeah,
that.
I get it. I get it, and I mean, I like the fact that you are opinionated on these. There's something I don't want to use. I don't want to use wrong words to say things about church, because it's a very sacred place.
Yeah.
I actually got this from Lesejo. She don't mess up on terms, like she don't mess up on terms. So
Yeah, yeah,
I, I want to come here. Church is a sort of, I mean, is a spiritual struggle somewhere, somehow. We struggle to live, like, to live from the things that we get from church, to water like our spirit. I want to question this. Have you ever had a question like, what's really the difference between a religion and spirituality? now that we are living in this modernized world, these questions are the things that play on our minds, like most cases. Have you
Mhm.
ever like came across such questions
Yeah,
individually
no,
or
I
maybe?
have. I have actually. I was one of those people who thought spirituality was going to church. Like, I think probably before a couple of, I think 3, 4 years ago. Only then I started asking. I'm like, oh, so there's a difference between going to church, religion, spirituality. There's more to actually spirituality. I just took it that spirituality. I mean, spirituality is Christianity, and that's how everybody operates. But no, there's actually so many things in the spiritual realm that is not even does not even have to do with just one religion like Christianity. There's so many things. So yeah, it's a learning space for me as well. That religion and spirituality is actually not the same thing, and but now I'm leaning more to my own spirituality. That who is Aobakwe in a spiritual sense? What is my spiritual identity? And what does that represent? How do I find my spiritual identity? And who do I ask?
Mm,
Those type of things. So it's a journey for me that now I'm just like, oh, okay, so I'm actually a spirit being, and oh, I actually have a spiritual personality. I actually have spiritual gifts, and such things. So
yeah.
yeah, it took a long time. Like I said, it's only the last 3, 4 years where I've actually started pressing more into the spiritual side, more than, let's say, how we do Christianity, uh, the systems and the patterns that we use in Christianity, as compared to now asking questions. Because for me, I'm always concerned, not I'm concerned about society and everyone, but I'm always more concerned about myself. That okay, who is Aobakwe in a spiritual sense? Who is this and that and that? So I am always in the constant move and search to find me in the midst of discovering that, oh, there's a difference between religion and whatever. Like, I'm just so consumed by finding Aobakwe in every aspect, that a lot of the times when there are questions around religion and debating, and I'm just like, don't put me there. I just want
Yeah,
to know
yeah, yeah,
who
yeah,
her
yeah.
like who is Aobakwe in that sense, and how I can contribute. And because sometimes some conversations for me, I'm like, I'm not the right person. I just want
Mm,
solutions. Let's come up with solutions. So yeah, so that's really what I can say about that part of spirituality and religion. And yeah, I'm also not one of those. I'm not the right person, I guess, to define those two terms. But I'm
yeah,
saying
yeah.
that still learning as well when it comes to spirituality. And actually, spirituality is more important than religion, I
Religion.
feel. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
And I'm also in the same curve. I'm also in the same learning curve of learning the difference between the two and having
Yeah,
more sight on them. It's not
yeah.
an easy thing. It's not an easy
No,
thing that you can. Yeah. So
yeah.
I'm also in that learning curve. So it's something
Mhm.
that I was curious with.
Don't forget to follow and subscribe to my YouTube channel. It's Asvaye on Facebook. Follow Asvaye and share the conversations. Question people about mentality.
There's a question
Yeah.
that I was supposed to start with. This was the
Oh,
question that I was supposed to start with. So it's so. I mean, I'm enthusiastic to be talking to you. I think some of the questions are just falling in the like in our dialogue. How was it for you to live and to grow up in the streets of South Africa? How would you conclude that
I think it was
experience?
fun. Yeah, for me, I feel like it was fun.